G'day, how you going? Hopefully you're doing well. Um, yeah, just wanted to do a video just about something I'm reading at the moment, and also just been listening. It just seems to have ticked off in my head a little bit, and it just sort of seems to have also resonated with myself in terms of some of the stuff that I'm going through at the moment. I think it's something that we all sort of have, and we might not sort of realise it at the time, but it is something that's there or thereabout. And I'm talking about just expectations. Sometimes we have known expectations, the things that we know about. And then sometimes we have sort of unknown expectations, things that we put on ourselves or things that we think we should be doing. And I mean, these days, unfortunately, for anybody who's on the internet, which is nearly like everybody, there is a lot more ability to find out about other people's lives. I think back in the day, before the internet, and I was a person who was there before the internet. It was a little bit difficult to sort of really be able to compare yourself so much with other people. You saw maybe what's going on the side. You saw cars rolling up. You might have seen furniture trucks rolling up to people in your street, in your suburb. But beyond that, you probably had a very limited view. You might have seen TV shows and stuff like that, and that might have given you a bit of an insight. But there was no things like reality TV and social media and people putting things up. And so expectations were probably fairly low at that point in time, except what you maybe saw from your neighbours or where you talked to your relatives and so on and so forth. So your expectations were probably more based on what you saw in shops, what you saw in TV advertisements, and so on and so forth. So expectations, I won't say were lower, but they were probably a little bit more universal, is probably the way. We all sort of dreamed of maybe a better house, maybe a bit more nicer furniture, maybe nicer holidays, and that you can sort of see that's ratcheted up each year as well. We might be looking at the new mod cons, the latest version of something, whatever it happened to be that came out, that had the new best thing in it, whatever that happened to be. So those sort of things happened, and we may have known a little bit about what the new things were coming out, what we saw on TV, but everybody saw them, so you could sort of then sort of see them, and you probably only had conversations with a few people. Those people in your office, those people in your sporting groups, those people in your other social circles and relatives, and that would be the group that you would talk to in terms of finding out what other people had and so on and so forth. But I think in today's society, expectations are set by so many other things. We've got social media for a start, but if you type in anything in Google, or anywhere else for that matter, YouTube, whatever you want to do, you can find out so much information about all these other things that are available. What's the best new phone? What's the best new car? What's the best holiday? What's, all of the things, what's the newest gadget to do X, whatever it happens to be. There are so many ways of finding out stuff about what's going on. There's also ways of finding out new things around what's the newest gadgets, what's the newest things that are happening, what is all the things that people are doing at the moment in terms of those people in the know. We see influencers in YouTube, in Facebook, in Instagram, in just about everything else, and it's hard to sort of keep up with those things to understand what's really relevant or not. And I think sometimes our expectations are just driven to distraction across all of those sort of platforms to try and understand what's going on and what we should be striving for. And I think that's the hardest part. Sometimes you see all of these things and in today's society, I will not sort of say that you can't have them, because you absolutely could have them if you strive, if you do all the things that you need to do. You could have any of those things. You could live anywhere. I mean, today's society is so open and so available that your expectations could be extremely high for everything, because it's all achievable. But in that same vein, those sort of things can also make it very difficult then to sort of say, okay, you know, I won't say what's realistic, but what's possible in certain timeframes. So your expectations can sort of drive a lot of things, and it can also then drive a lot of dissatisfaction in life as well, if you don't sort of understand what your real expectations are, or what is possibly achievable within certain timeframes. It's really difficult to talk about this, because you don't want to sort of say to anybody, well, that's not achievable, because I'm certainly not one of those sort of people that wants to do that. But at the same token, you do need to have certain things in place to be able to achieve. The other thing is, these days, the access to credit and lines of loans is very easy as well. If you've got a decent job and you've got decent sort of a support, you can get access to these things to then be able to buy these things before you may be ready to do that. So the temptation there to fast track and to move those things through very quickly is very heightened. So I think sometimes you need to think about expectations in different ways to sort of see, well, are my expectations, and am I putting so much pressure on myself, not only financially, but in from a sort of like a stress point of view, and also from a satisfaction point of view, that you're always reaching. You're never actually getting to the end and making sure that you're getting something that actually makes you feel satisfied. You're always putting further and further expectations, so that you're never actually getting to the point where you can sit down and say, well, I've achieved these things. Isn't it great? Your expectations has also already ratcheted up another one, or you've seen something else and you think, well, actually, why don't I get that, or something like that? So I think one of the things is making sure that your expectations, you are aware of them, first of all, but you're also realizing that some of these things can work against you. And so constantly looking at what's the next big thing, you never sort of actually reaching a level. You're always constantly playing catch up. And that doesn't allow then a sense of satisfaction to come in, or a sense of happiness to come in. So expectations can be quite difficult, because you're constantly sort of burning both ends, because you're not happy at where you are at the moment. You're never reaching the point that you think that you're going to be happy, because you're always extending it, or something new's come out. So you sort of say, oh, well, that's the thing I want. I was happy with this, but then I'm moving on to the next one. So you're constantly sort of putting more and more things in, so that you're constantly working through the next thing. Oh, okay, well, that was good for now, but now I've seen this thing, and I'm working towards that one. So I think what I'm trying to sort of say here in a long way, and I mean, there's lots of things around this, previously, is, keeping up with the Joneses and all of those sort of things. But there was also, a little bit easier to know what the Joneses were, because they were probably somebody down the road. Now the Joneses is the world. And you're constantly trying to keep up with the world, whether you're watching reality TV shows like The Real Housewives, and I wonder whether they're actually real or not. And then also all the other things that you're seeing on social media. And you are seeing true people there as well, which is great to see, but you're also seeing some people that you don't know the circumstances. They may have the best flashy car, but they might be up to their eyeballs in debt at the same time. So they might be happy that they've got this, but the stress of actually owning that and so on and so forth, you just don't know about it, and it becomes really sort of difficult. So I think sometimes the expectations and what you've got can really also lead to a lot of angst, stress, anxiety, financial stress, all of those sort of things. And sometimes you need to sort of pull back or actually look and actually understand what your expectations are, so that you can actually do those things and make sure that you are really aware of where you're going and where you want to be. So I know this has been a bit of a ramble, but it's sort of something that's been sort of tick-tocking around in my mind. No, it's not. Not TikTok, but it's all been going around in my mind for quite some time to sort of try and understand this in a decent sort of way, and sort of really sort of try and make this coherent, even for myself, because I'm also of that stage where I'm constantly looking at things outside of what I am, and trying to sort of understand where that's going as well. So yeah, hopefully this was of interest. I'm going to probably do a few more around this sort of topic in different ways, but hopefully this was of interest to you today. Okay, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Talk to you next time.